Hey everyone, it's Denise Salcedo here in Lucha Central with a reminder of where and when to catch all of the great network content this week. Get the full lineup and listen to all of our shows in the podcast network section of luchacentral.com. On Tuesdays, Mass Mats and Mayhem takes you inside the world of Lucha Underground as they take you weekly through the series with the benefit of hindsight and the benefit of special guests from the groundbreaking series. Check out the premiere video stream every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Lucha Central YouTube channel and at luchacentral.com. Then listen to it on your favorite podcast platform every Wednesday. Tuesday nights live, it's Wrestle Boss, where Fabi Chulo talks MMA and pro wrestling with special guests and listener call-ins. Visit WrestleBossLive.com Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific to listen live or call in with questions or download the show on podcast platforms on Wednesdays. Wednesday nights live on Facebook, it's Spanish show La Mesa de los Márgaros, giving you both the news and the chisme from around the lucha world. Special guests and a whole lot of fun make it one of the most talked about shows in Mexico. Thursdays, it's Straight Out of the Bodega with Papo Esco and PWR promoter Gabriel Ramirez, as they have guests from throughout the wrestling world pull up to give an inside look into their careers. From indie standouts to television superstars, each week brings a new name and perspective. On Friday, it's your double dose of Lucha Central Weekly podcast, one in English y el otro en español. Lucha Central Weekly is where you'll find all the top stories of the week, both inside and out of the ring from Mexico and anywhere luchadores are in action across the globe. Be sure to subscribe and follow all your favorite Lucha Central Network series on your favorite podcast platforms, either by their own series name or subscribe to the Lucha Central Podcast Network show pages to get all of the shows in one easy feed. And please consider giving a rating to help more fans find the shows that you love. For now, this is Denise Salcedo signing off from Lucha Central. Have a great week. You are listening to the Lucha Central Podcast Network. And now, Lucha Central Weekly.
Luchaban los cuatro rudos, ídolos de la afición. La arena estaba de voz en voz, la gente loca de la emoción. Y en el ring luchaban los cuatro rudos, ídolos de la afición. El santo, el cavernario, el nuevo y el mundo. El santo, el cavernario.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. This is the podcast that lets you know all of the latest happening in the world of Lucha Libre. Each week, our team discusses news and events from the past week, as well as preview the week ahead, covering Mexico-based promotions and top independents, along with luchador-related news from throughout the United States. The Lucha Central Weekly podcast is part of the Lucha Central Podcast Network on luchacentral.com. This podcast and others from the Lucha Central Podcast Network are also available on all major podcast platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google, Podbay, and Speaker. I'm Miranda Morales. I'm one of the co-hosts of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast, and I have two amazing co-hosts that I'm going to be bringing in right now. The first one is the dashing one, Mr. Dusty Murphy. Dusty, how's it going?
Oh, it's going fantastic. How are you doing, Miranda?
I am doing great. Very excited for this week's episode because I know we have some hot button topics we are dying to talk about. And speaking of us, well, the third member of our team of this trio is, well, who? It is Mr. Brendan Barr. Brendan, how's it going today?
Oh, I'm doing good. We're doing this a little differently this week. So this is an exciting feeling. It's like doing a new version of the show, even though it's all going to be stuff that we have been ready and eager to talk about.
Yes. So a lot had happened this week, especially in the world of WWE. Not trying to put too many teasers out there, but if you know, you know. Yeah. And if you don't know, then that's why you're listening to the show, so you can know. So either way, you're winning. That's how I see it. But into a topic that's come up fairly recently, a new TV series, similar to one out there that many of us have seen on TV called The Masked Singer. Different iterations of it have already come about. I've already seen the Spanish version of it. I know it's happening in other languages and countries. So of course pro wrestling has to get something in it. And why not? I mean, the concept of a masked wrestler is essentially what lucha libre is, really. However, there is a new show that has been developed called The Masked Wrestler. It's a original television series made in collaboration with Independent Wrestling TV, or IWTV, and Cole Creative. They just began filming in August, and the premise of the show is that there's 8 wrestlers who are disguised under masks. Again, this is almost lucha libre, but wait. Before you start. That's what we thought. But there's 8 wrestlers who are disguised under masks, and they're going to be in a single elimination tournament to determine who's going to be crowned the mystery opponent and compete for a chance at the Independent Wrestling Championship. The catch is, if you lose the tournament, you must reveal your identity to the audience, to the, whoever's watching. So it's, again, it's very interesting on this. Now, there's even some judges. Apparently the Masked, this, again, very similar to The Masked Singer. The series will consist of 7 episodes and feature 3 celebrity judges. We have AEW's Chris Statlander, who's going to be featured, Beyond Wrestling promoter Drew Corriendo, and Ricky Romance Perillo / Mr. Brickster from VH1's I Love New York. So that's the overall premise of it. But okay. So let's see. What are your thoughts on this concept of the masked wrestler?
I like it in theory.
In theory.
I mean, I have a deep and unabiding love of all things kitschy and novelty. And, I just love stuff like that. So this kind of appeals to me. But I can see where it could go absolutely wrong, to where it wouldn't even be like dumb fun, where it'd just be dumb. And I hadn't had the chance to see it as of recording time. It was still pretty new in my time zone, but I hope to see it. I'm going to check out at least the first couple episodes, but I hope it's not just like a spot fest where people are kind of pretending to be luchadors. You know what I mean?
That's this plays an interesting line, because it could just be them being wrestlers, and that's kind of an interesting concept of maybe you're looking at their moveset to figure out who they are, which that's an interesting element to it. But again, this is essentially what lucha libre is, as far as being behind a mask, and it's a very important element. So it almost, you wonder if it's how people may perceive lucha libre after this, when it's really more of a rip on the Masked Singer than it is wrestling. I don't know.
But people are automatically going to be making lines between lucha libre and them, even if it turns out that every single one of these guys is Canadian.
Well, it's inevitable, because to the American public, largely, a masked wrestler is a luchador, and a luchador is a masked wrestler.
Yeah.
They wouldn't think of somebody, unmasked, somebody like Conan or Vampiro necessarily as their first thought of a luchador, whereas, they're absolutely luchadors.
Nor do they think of Mr. Wrestling as a luchador. Or the American Patriot, the Patriot Del Wilkes, I don't think of him as a luchador. Or even the guys in the Evil Order in AEW, I don't think of them as luchadors, despite being under masks. No, I have to explain that to my coworkers every week. No, they're not. They're not actually luchadors. They are guys that wear a mask.
They were luchadors. Let's be real. They
That would
wish.
bring a lot to the product if they were.
Don't get me wrong. Some of those guys are talented wrestlers and would probably thrive in a lucha libre environment. But no, it's part of their story that they're wearing those masks for a storyline reason. So
yes, yeah. It will be very interesting to see what the masked wrestler concept, how it unfolds. And hey, ultimately wrestling at the end of the day is supposed to be fun.
Right?
I have no doubt that it's going to be fun. So I think that, as long as, and I think really the viewers who are going to watch into this, I will know exactly what they're watching when they get this. So, but still, I mean, I guess you wonder how you're starting to see things like that, on television in general, where there's shows that are about kind of uncovering people to see who they are behind, a persona or a mask or a character or whatnot. So, and it could be a really good test for those wrestlers, when you don't have, say, facial expressions or other even mannerisms that you can rely on, you have to really focus on your in-ring work. Can fans tell right away who someone is, or will the wrestlers try to purposely throw people off guard?
Yeah, I think that go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I definitely think that a smart wrestler is going to try to throw the fans off and use moves that are not normally in their repertoire so that they can show a little more diversity and maybe have a more robust moveset when they go back to indie wrestling or possibly even AEW. I mean, Chris Statlander's involved, so,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's amazing that they've kind of allowed some of their people to do this, so that it opens up the field of possibility to be truly amazing for some of the masked wrestlers.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be featured on IWTV, and you can get that through Google Play, the Apple Store, Amazon Fire TV, and Roku on mobile and web browsers. So
you can just go to their website too if you're just that's what I do.
Well, you know what? We got a whole lot of show to cover. So let's get started with the road back to shows. Brendan, tell us what's been happening on the road back to shows.
Oh man, this is kind of an interesting week. It's another mix of good news and bad news and interesting news. So we're going to start here. Mexico City, still orange. But, and this week's but is kind of nice, Puebla, where home of one of the other CMLL arenas has actually moved to yellow. It is, at this point, it is possible that it could go to green as soon as November 9th, which would mean that they could have shows with fans in Arena Puebla shortly after that. It would still be at a reduced capacity because until all of Mexico is green, they're not going to let you crowd into one arena.
Right. Yeah, that's just smart. Yeah.
But so I found that to be very hopeful that as the more dispersed areas start to die down a little bit, that they're moving to yellow, and we might be able to have shows in other areas. Puebla's shows are usually broadcast here. They're something that I watch. There are regular performers that do Puebla only shows for CMLL. So it would be nice to see some of them allowed to work. I know that mileage is going to vary on how entertaining some fans find that, because they definitely have strong opinions on that. But
that's true.
Just being able to see them have the opportunity to perform is a big thing for me. So
yeah.
And then the other big story for as far as COVID and back to shows was the legendary performer Frey Tormenta was diagnosed with COVID this week. He is still alive. This is I don't know where that rumor got started, but he missed a couple of show dates, and he's not currently hospitalized. He's just at home with a nurse checking on him. It sounds like he's actually doing fairly well, all things considered, but that's where we're at. He's home and he's rehabilitating. Speaking of rehabilitating, Bandito, who performed on last week's show because he'd been given last week's CMLL show because he'd been given an all clear, has said that he doesn't feel he's fully rehabilitated enough to be in the main event this week against Volador. So he has withdrawn so that he can be healthier and have that match at a later date when he's at full strength. So
yeah, I'd much rather see that when they're both feeling great and at the best of their ability, because what a fine match that's going to be. You know, like I'm looking forward to that. So
yeah, and I always like to applaud the people that are self-aware enough to not try and push through the pain or whatever else. Like,
yeah, that's actually very admirable.
So yeah, it would be super easy for anybody in his position to just be like, hey, I may never get this opportunity again, so I'm going to do it now, and maybe not have as good a match as they would like. So I'm happy for that. I wish him well in his recovery.
Absolutely.
And then, now I'll move on to some other things. We've got a couple other shows. Vanguardia is going to be doing a show this weekend. AAA has been filming their Auto Luchas, so we will start seeing more matches from Auto Lucha pop up. How we're going to see that, I'm less certain on at this moment, but they're being filmed, so they'll probably drip them out through the end of the year and then figure something out.
One of the matches filmed was Mr. Iguana and La Hydra versus Nino Hamburguesa and Big Mommy championship match for the mixed tag titles. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I love that combination.
Me too. It's going to be so good.
That's all around just like 4 great personalities to have in the ring together. And then on that platform, there's a lot of fun things that they could do because they all seem to respond really well to big crowds and big energy. So that Auto Lucha show's good fit for them.
Mm-hmm.
And my last thing for today's road back to shows is a little bit self-indulgent, but I still think it qualifies. Defy Wrestling, our Seattle super promotion here, has announced they have a Patreon, which is going to have exclusive matches with watch-alongs and other things. And the reason that I feel that this is worth mentioning on the Lucha show is this is where I've seen a lot of the luchadors that were traveling. So we've had the Lucha Bros, Damien and Bestia 666, Mecha Wolf, Rey Horus, Ave Rex, Avispa Dorada, Sonico, and many more luchadors on there. So this is a very good platform to see some luchadors in matches that may not be available in other places because Defy films all of their events. The one of the co-owners is a movie director and enjoys.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he enjoys doing. He works in movies. I'm not. I may be putting director on him. He has a visual production background, and the stuff is so very cool. Unique and very distinct. So, well worth
love
it.
That idea, yeah. Kind of a cinematic eye on wrestling is so good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you get a chance, so you can go to defywrestling.com. They will have some free matches out there to give you a taste of what the product is like. If you like that, there's a link to their Patreon on the front page. I can't recommend them enough because they've been supporting local wrestling as well as Lucha Libre for the last few years out here.
Very cool.
Well, Brendan, we got to keep the news going because now you're taking us through the indie roundup, and again with the new format, we don't have our usual sound bite for it. So unless Dusty wants to continue to do it live every week, which I think he's going to get bored.
I could, but I don't. I don't have I can't do it really on the bass.
Yeah.
But
it's all about
I'll have the guitar ready.
Okay, I was going to say it's all about the voice. It's all about the indie roundup.
Indie roundup.
There it is.
There you go. All right, now we can do it. Continue.
So we had a couple of things going on, and I'm going to stick with just kind of sticking with the bigger points on these. IWRG had a big event with the main event for the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship, which featured Rosario Jr. and Hijo de Canas Lupus, and they they went around. There was some brawling. There's some fun stuff. There was some run-ins that happened. Interestingly enough, and this is one of the things that I love about Lucha, is run-ins can happen, and they don't necessarily have an impact on the outcome. No. This was one of those cases. So Rosario Jr. managed to win in a clean pin, but it was after all of that other stuff had happened. It was just missing some chess man cookie sheets at this point.
You gotta love them.
Yes.
And then, so that IWRG, the whole event is, or not the whole, that match and a couple others from the event this last weekend are up on YouTube. I believe I know we have results on Lucha Central, but I believe we have highlights of the matches on Lucha Central as well. And then my usual Lucha time, we had another fun match. They're again doing big things with just a very small card. They were giving us a good solid 5 matches. This is up on their YouTube channel, so it's easy enough to get if you want, but I'm gonna go with the main event here. Hermes Jr. VIP and AAA's Black Danger versus, the Los Mafiosos, which is Bomba, Granada, and Mafioso. It was another banger of a match, kind of a little craziness going on. The ending on it, once again, they're kind of building storyline now instead of just trying to wow me with great wrestling, which, I mean, that works too. But the ending on this, after it looked like they were just going to run to like a time limit draw as the lights turn out, then they come back up and a dark figure is standing at the top of the ramp, and VIP is distracted by that, which allows Mafioso to catch him in a submission hold, and he taps out immediately. And then we find out that it is Zorro, and Zorro comes to the middle of the ring. Everybody gets the heck out because it's a madman with a sword. And then he sits in the middle of the ring. Everybody walks away, and then he stands up and stands at the top of the ramp, and that was the end of the show. So I had no idea whose side Zorro's on this one because nobody wanted to fight him. Or VIP seemed the most upset that he was there, and they were kind of the faces in this match. But he just as easily could be after the mafiosos at this situation, and very interesting stuff. And again, we've got Black Danger on there. They've been grabbing various AAA wrestlers over the last couple of shows, so definitely worth a look on that. They're getting better and better. They put up an event on Facebook and then that event gets replayed on YouTube. And I've had better luck catching them on YouTube than on Facebook. So, but it is potential to catch it 2 different times in a week. And right now, it sounds like I'm the only one that's giving results on it because I can't even get the Lucha Central guys to give me results on it. I have to find the matches myself. So,
yeah, you heard it here first, folks.
You heard it here first. This is why the Lucha Central Weekly podcast is your place for literally all things Lucha Libre. Even the things you didn't know that were Lucha Libre, we're covering those. But we're also covering real Lucha Libre as well.
We got you any way you want it.
Well, thank you, Brendan, for our indie roundup this week. As you mentioned, Brendan, some results are available on luchacentral.com for IWRG and some other promotions. So, again, Lucha Central is really your place for all things Lucha Libre. And, of course, for those that are not, well, that's why you listen to this podcast, because we give you the little tidbits out there, too, that may not be covered so regularly on luchacentral.com. Now, well, we have this week's Lucha Central with Denise Salcedo, so we're going to kick it off to her right now. All right. And a big thank you once again to Denise Salcedo, who always brings us this week's Lucha Central. Up next, Dusty's going to give us all the happenings on Raw and SmackDown, a very big week with the draft. That seemed to just take over WWE.
Yes, yeah. The draft is the main news. We didn't have any Lucha news aside from draft picks on SmackDown, no matches. On Raw, we did have Angel and Andrade. Like, this match had the potential to possibly be the best match we've seen in WWE all year, but instead it was like a 2.5-minute failure. It just wasn't very good. Angel started out with the pants off, which I liked, because that way he let you know he was serious from the get-go. So the pants come off. That's when it's real. And so he was ready. And I liked that. And within 3 minutes, he laid out and dried out Andrade, and he got the pin. And afterwards, when Zelina, who had been on commentary and looked like $1 million, but she came to the ring to check on Andrade, even though she was done with him, I thought that was a little strange. Anyway, she came to the ring to check on him. And all of a sudden, the Titantron went out. The Thunderdome went out. Then the lights went out. I thought it might be Retribution, but it was The Fiend and Alexa. And they did a double Sister Abigail, like a synchronized Sister Abigail on Andrade and Zelina. It was awesome. Like, it was an amazing moment.
Yeah.
It would have been even better if they used it to build to something, but that doesn't seem to be the case. We'll get to that. But we had the draft. The draft was this week, and real quick before our discussion, I'm just going to name off the trades relevant to our program.
Absolutely.
Raw got Angel Garza, Lucha House Party of Tag Team with Lince Dorado and Gran Metalik. They got Ricochet, they got Humberto Carrillo, and they got John Morrison, formerly Johnny Mundo. SmackDown got Rey and Dominic Mysterio, Kalisto from Lucha House Party. They were separated by the draft, and Zelina. And, like, you didn't hear me mention Andrade because Andrade didn't get drafted. Even after that amazing moment with The Fiend, he didn't get drafted.
So stupid.
And
I mean, I'm sure you'll cover, Dusty, but there's been every theory under the sun about why not. So, I mean, that seems to be just the speculation of it all seems to be almost as big of a news as to, the actual fact that he wasn't drafted to either brand.
It does. There's been tons of speculation. I mean, we can presume that he's going to go where Charlotte goes. She kind of ramped up, and he did too a little bit in photos. They ramped up the recognition of their relationship on social media this week. That has not been played to yet on WWTV, besides some knowing glances, like some guilty glances from Andrade whenever Rick's around, which is brilliant. I love the subtlety of that, actually. So she kind of hinted that she might be his manager on Twitter, that, like, he needed a manager. And she referred to him as Poppy, which I thought was kind of cool. Like, that's a nice moment. So we kind of mentioned that last week. Charlotte's kind of got her own thing, and she doesn't really need Andrade, but she's got a dad, Ric Flair, who could help Andrade become the dirtiest player in the game.
Yes.
So that would be cool. That's been hinted at. Also, go ahead.
As Charlotte was drafted.
Yes, to Raw.
Charlotte was drafted to Raw, and I know she's still recovering from injury. And so the fact that Charlotte was drafted, but yet, nothing's happened. Andrade wasn't.
And that was kind of the story that broke earlier today, was that he might be having surgery, like minor surgery that he had been putting off. So that's why he wasn't drafted. But like you say, plenty of people that were injured were drafted.
Yep.
And so it's just strange. There was also some rumors. I mean, there were kind of competing rumors, but one rumor was that Vince just didn't care. Like, he just didn't know Andrade and didn't care. That was Paul Heyman's guy, and this was their way to kind of write him out of the spot that Paul had gotten him into. But then there was also a rumor that his contract was signed November the 19th, 2015, and that it was a 5-year contract, and that this is kind of what WWE does when you're coming up on the end of your contract. They kind of bury you until you decide what you're going to do. So there's a lot to talk about here. So, like, and he also posted a photo with the NXT Championship.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, literally don't know where to go with this. Don't have no idea where to go with this.
Yeah, Brendan, what do you think?
Well, first off, I have a couple of small updates to add to the speculation station stuff we're doing.
Oh,
here.
Excellent.
So the Charlotte tweets that went out have since been deleted. So there's any number of reasons why that could happen, but it is fairly well documented that Papa Vince does not like people building to feuds and events that will never happen. So he has on many occasions when he's become aware of things like this directly told people to take things down. So I'm just throwing that information out there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then in addition to the NXT speculation, there's still the fact that he has been officially placed on Raw without being drafted, according to WWE.com. So, but that may just be because they realized that they were getting torn apart on social media for not
drafting him,
not mentioning him at all. Yeah. It's interesting stuff there.
And like I say, I've heard also that the Bray Wyatt Sister Abigail thing was meant to write him off temporarily to give him some time off. But then why include Zelina? Why not have Alexa keep Zelina out of the ring or something? Because she was drafted to SmackDown.
Right.
And presumably will be part of the program maybe as soon as this weekend. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just baffled at where this fell apart.
It just stinks of them not knowing what to do, and this is the downside. Yeah. This is the downside of having one writing team doing both shows and having worked tirelessly for months in that format. So, they're going to make small mistakes that snowball like this.
Yeah.
I do absolutely think that Angel and Andrade could shine best as singles because it was obvious they weren't going to do anything with them as a tag team. If they were going to put the belt on them, they'd have done it. I don't know why they dragged it out as long as they did. We never found out who actually poisoned Montez.
They dropped that. Yeah, they dropped that so long ago. And even what you were describing with kind of this build-up match that they've really been teasing for months now. The fact that it just got blown over and was just more of a spot for the Fiend.
2 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. it showed that they gave up on this a long time ago. If they ever truly gave it a chance. And it's just very, very disappointing how they ended this particular storyline when it had so much potential.
It really is.
That's kind of the takeaway that I'm seeing in a lot of the Lucha Libre circles online is a lot of people are like, this is bad news for any of these guys. I'm gonna
it really is.
I just want to
throw that out there.
Yeah.
I just want to throw it out there that. Okay, keep going.
No. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I keep jumping in because I know you're going in a different direction.
No, because I keep alluding to it, and I want to give it credit here. A lot of what I'm talking about is coming directly from a thread which Rob Viper is giving me information. So I don't want it's giving the world information. It's on social media. I just want to make sure I properly credit him as we're continuing this discussion.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes. No, I do want to highlight some things. I mean, we talked about it on last week's show, a few things that we predicted or would like to see that did end up happening. Yeah. I mean, one of the big ones was Dusty and essentially the whole Mysterio family and the storyline moving over to SmackDown.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah,
that was.
We got to give our props to Dusty on that. He's outscored me on the draft because I had Andrade getting drafted. So
I actually have no idea. I just said Andrade'd go where Charlotte did.
We all that was all true.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say I had a little bit of a victory with now having Angel Garza and John Morrison on the same brand.
Won't that be a great match if we could get a Mundo match instead of the late John Morrison, the more recent? And that would be money. And I mean, it doesn't even have to be the main event. Give them 15 minutes for one of the mid card titles, I'd be cool with that. And that'd be an amazing match. And, you could have, The Miz ringside. And that would be so good. I mean, all the charisma there, it would be insane. People lose their minds.
So theoretically, we have Andrade on the same brand now as Lucha House Party too. So
yeah,
you know,
I would love to see Lindsay versus Andrade.
That is yes.
See,
that is or he amazing. Or even Mundo versus Lindsay Solo. I mean Morrison now, but like those two guys could really do something if they took it seriously. Put them in a parkour match of some kind, you know, where they're jumping and doing flips. I'd love that.
In a world where they're allowed to do their thing, they're in a place where they can really flourish. There's we've just said 4 names that any combination of 2 of those guys is a fantastic
money.
Totally agree. Wow. But, you know, there's some silver linings through this that, you know, it is going to be a new landscape on both Raw and SmackDown. And seeing Lucha House Party split up, that's going to be a big dynamic and change as well. I mean, we've seen this tension arise with them for weeks now. Again, we don't really get a payoff, which again is kind of disappointing.
No.
They seem to cut things off at its legs.
Yeah, they were kind of hinting at maybe an Apuestas match on Instagram, and that seems to have kind of gone by the wayside as well.
Yeah. So that, I mean, again,
it's a thing on 2 different brands.
Yeah.
I guess. Well, yeah. I mean, you guys both know where I'm going with this, but they're doing the same thing on both brands. Where they're cutting at the legs and not breed at all.
The interesting thing that they have continued that looks like it's going to continue is the Mysterio family saga, though. Like, they literally took the whole storyline and now they're just taking it to SmackDown. So that, to me, was interesting, where the majority of storylines were kind of cut and they just, you know, took it out. This one is going to continue. And it's just going to continue on Friday nights. So, you know, that also means that this is not over. I mean, they're going to keep running with this story, however it looks like, whether it's the involvement of Aaliyah and, you know, Seth still having issues with the family and Murphy and what's his, I mean, we thought Murphy was going to be left all alone and no one to beat him up. But, luckily, you know, WWE took care of that.
Yeah.
No, that's the one thread they wanted to make sure they had covered.
Can you imagine that's like the one where they're like, this is what we got to have more of. Like, people want more Seth versus Familia Mysterio. And like, we've had this every week since WrestleMania, I think, you know, and now they lost all their family adjacent guys.
Here's the weird thing
Black and Humberto. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's fine. Here's the weird thing for me on it, though, is they've been kind of very successful job of rebranding SmackDown, where a lot more wrestling happens. There's considerably fewer line spots, and a lot more of that development happens very quickly. Whereas they've been using an hour on Raw for generally longer promo spots, and I mean all of that.
That's very true. SmackDown has been a more pure wrestling program.
So they're bringing this very storyline-driven feud over there. So it could be an interesting development to see how it plays out.
Yeah, you're right. And even the timing of SmackDown, Raw has 3 hours, so you've had more time to stretch this out. SmackDown is only 2, so maybe they won't even have as much time story-wise to have it be on multiple points through the show, or maybe they're going to be more concise with the storytelling, or maybe it's going to be more wrestling oriented and less storyline. It could go a lot of different ways.
I could go for that, actually. Those guys wrestle. I mean, the matches themselves are fantastic. It's just that we've seen a lot of it. And but if it's less story and more wrestling, I could really get into that, I guess. If that's what we're going to get, I would rather have more wrestling and less story.
That's the silver lining I'm hoping for on this. You know, as I keep kind of bringing it back around, there's just so much about this that just is putting a bad taste in my mouth. Like they keep doing this to all Lucha Libre town. They'll let them get super, and then they'll just pull them back. Or you know, I mean, like even Mysterio, who is. He's an irritating character. Like, if you talk about the Attitude Era, like he's the names that will pop into people's heads right away. And yet it's still being held down and kind of it's stuck in this odd storyline. I mean, we've speculated before that at this point, maybe sacrificing a little bit of him put his family over, but at the same time, why would they accept that unless they were okay with burying Ray a little bit to
because I mean, like Ray's talent is limitless, and we have seen so little of him, and what we do see is just kind of to assist Dominic.
Yeah,
and so I would really like to see a lot more Rey Mysterio in this. Like if we had a real proper, like non-gimmicky, non-weapon Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins match, like I would be so down for that.
Yeah,
like that's my kind of wrestling.
Yeah. I'm 100% okay with Dominic being the weapon guy right now because he's a bigger guy. He's less experienced. He needs maybe something to help him have a little extra edge against a Seth Rollins in particular, who's a verifiable veteran, right?
Yeah, he's a Grand Slam champion, guaranteed legend.
Yeah, but Mysterio, Ray does not need that. Ray, he needs to be able to have a good match, and it's kind of telling that they're doing this with all the guys. We all know that Lucha House Party guys can have great matches, and they're having matches and they're supposed to, but they're not any sort of movement on the card. They're getting story taken away from them before it even happens. It's very. I'm still very optimistic that the draft will allow some of these guys to do this, but I'm always reminded of the story of the Dudleys told, where the first time they were let go from WWE is because the suits and creative didn't have anything for them, and they weren't allowed to advocate for themselves. So, no, and
can you imagine not having anything creative for the Dudleys or for somebody like Seth or Andrade? I mean, like,
exactly. Andrade, the world is do so many things with before you even delve into his personal life, you can do so many things with just his look, his presence in the ring.
He's got amazing charisma. His English isn't as strong as some of the other guys, but I have a feeling it's a lot stronger than we've gotten to see lately because he's been here this long. Charlotte probably doesn't speak great Spanish. And so, I mean, maybe she does. Maybe she's super fluent and I'm just ignorant to that. But I have a feeling like maybe he could get himself over now. I mean, how hard is it for a guy that good looking and that talented to, to catch on? Like, that's exactly what you want. And
I mean, the world of wrestling is a weird place. Let's just, and again, too, it's not just about the fans. It's about people in suits who, decide.
The guys with the money.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's beyond just, what we think. And that's the tricky part about pro wrestling in its current iteration. It's just beyond, people, even now, it's even beyond fans in the stands. It's now more about who is getting, whether it's social media likes or clicks or views, that may play an element into it. Even though there's still, really popular segments and matches that get tons of likes and views, but somehow it still doesn't connect with the company. So, we can kind of bang our heads against the walls on this and wonder why. And I think it's ultimately not because there's not the fans there. There's something else there, whether it's a higher above our pay grade, as they say, or, some other algorithm or metric or issue, or back to what you said, Dusty, maybe one of those rumors, maybe just Vince doesn't like him. And that's just,
well, I mean, that can happen. Like, there's some people you just meet and you're like, I just don't like that guy. No matter how talented and how matter, you know what I mean? Like, there's just sometimes you just don't click with people.
I liked the news story that I found on that one though, where it was just it was all in the headline. Andrade not drafted because Vince doesn't like that. That was the whole news story. right there. Vince doesn't like it. I didn't even. It was really very like in words beneath that. They're like, we got you all on the headline.
Well, if you're a jealous man, I could see where you wouldn't. Like, I mean, he's obviously handsome. He's obviously talented. I mean, he's going to marry Charlotte Flair. Like, there's a lot of things to be jealous of. And I could see where Vince would be like, damn it, I wish I had Andrade's charisma. Stupid, sexy Andrade.
That impression is something I didn't know I needed.
Dusty as the evil boss.
Yes. Well, you can find the results for both Raw and SmackDown on luchacentral.com. Of course, the results of the draft are available on luchacentral.com. And let us know your thoughts on the draft. Who won? Which show got some of the better draft picks? And what do you think will happen with some of the luchadors that we talked about earlier? Now, though, we got to move on to AEW. It was a monumental episode of Dynamite this week, but also a super packed episode of Dark. So, Dusty, let's continue on this road with you of pro wrestling.
Yeah, on Dark, we had a couple of lucha matches. Lucha Bros defeated Lee Johnson and Cesar Bonani. This was a fairly quick match. It was just under 5 minutes, I think. But it just really wasn't to my liking. Brandon and I had kind of talked about this before with Miranda, but the Lucha Bros need to look dominant. And I just felt like they didn't look dominant in this match. I mean, this is the best Lucha tag team, if not the best tag team in AEW. I said that. I said it. They're the best. And they should start looking like the badasses they are. I want to see the Penta we know and love. Like, there needs to be some broken arms around here. I mean,
no bad vibes against Angelico, but if they can book Angelico on Dark to look really dominant, then why the heck can't we see the Lucha Bros look dominant?
I mean, like, how long has it been since Pentagon broke somebody's arm? And that really got him over. People loved it, and like, it would look amazing. Like, just let him break a couple of arms on Dark, and get people worried about this brutal guy. It kind of tied, like, if they did what they did on Dynamite would look even better, but I'll get to that. But yeah, and so our second match was Ricky Starks defeating Fuego del Sol. If you're not a Ricky Starks fan, this just wasn't the match for you. I love Ricky Starks. He's the coolest. But, man, he was vicious in this match.
Yeah,
at one point, he actually stopped and joined commentary and then went back to whoop on Fuego some more. The break gave Fuego time to charge up and hit a super kick, but it wasn't enough because Ricky replied with the Rochambeau, and he got the win. Okay. And then, go ahead.
And that killer spear.
Oh, yeah. I mean, this match is fantastic. It's not very long. It's only 2 or 3 minutes, real short, but Ricky Starks. Like, Ricky Starks is a star.
Yes.
I'm a little biased. He always reminds me of my friend, Artie Santiago, but Ricky Starks, he's like,
oh, yeah. Ricky, that's Stroke Daddy, baby. Like, the fact that he, you know it, man. And the fact that he's been on commentary on Dark, kind of on and off, though, for a while, too. So I've loved him on commentary as much as I've actually loved him in the ring. You know, so I'm glad he's in the ring because that's his place as a wrestler. But, he's really found a good stride with AEW and even just this, partnership with Taz and Brian Cage. I would say more with Taz. I feel like him and Taz are more of a better duo, and I know he was kind of brought on to kind of help out or be more of a partner to Brian Cage, but I'm loving this dynamic, like I said, especially in commentary with Taz and Ricky Starks. I mean, it's really good.
Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's so good. Ricky Starks is going to be a big star. I mean, and apparently he's really good friends with The Undertaker. They were working out in the gym together and he just saw The Undertaker and he was like, hey, I'm Ricky Starks and I'm a wrestler and I'm going to be a big deal. And they became friends. And when Undertaker trained to come back to the ring, Ricky was who he trained with. He trained with Ricky Starks to get ready for the ring to come back for WrestleMania. And how cool is that?
Yeah.
I
even
just love
Undertaker
that.
knows because Undertaker knows who Stroke Daddy is. Like, that's what's up.
But I love that story. Like he is the gimmick where he was just confident enough to walk up to a legend in the business and say, "Hey, I like what you do, but I'm going to be the guy." And that was how the friendship starts, right? That's beautiful.
That's so cool, right? That's like the most Ricky Starks story of all time. But and then the next night we had Wednesday Night Dynamite. There wasn't a whole lot of Lucha news. There was a world title eliminator tournament announced to name the next number one contender for the AEW World Championship. And the first round is going to have Penta El Zero M versus Rey Fénix. Like, I guess I get the point, putting them against each other in the first round, but like, where's the justice in this? I mean,
silver lining, we get one solid match out of this, 4 guaranteed certain.
But they could have done more with it. That's no silver lining.
Much more.
You're not wrong. I'm just trying to. There is the end of after all this time of saying why aren't they doing it? We get the one match at the very least.
I know, but still, I just want to soak a little bit in this.
The entire tournament seems built to get Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. You know, like that's the lead up. But like Brendan mentioned, I really hope we get that silver lining. I think we can get a real show stealer for these two. I mean, these are luchadores de lujo. You know, they are at the top of their game. And there's a reason that they're signed when somebody like Laredo Kid, as amazing as he is, putting on Match of the Year candidates down in Mexico. But he didn't get signed and these guys did. And there's a reason for that. And so I hope that they can kind of put on the match that this isn't the match I want to see him breaking any arms, obviously. But this is the match that I want to see steal the show. I want to see them show America what they can do. I want them to trend from people that had never seen the badass Pentagon and Lucha Underground, or saw the Phoenix that stole Melissa Santos's heart in Lucha Underground. You know, like, we need to see these guys. And if we could get those guys in the ring, even for one night against each other, I think they could do things that people just didn't know were physically possible within wrestling, or maybe physically possible, period. And so I really want to see that match. I hope that it outshines the tournament. I want them to do so well that people forget about the build to Hangman and Kenny Omega, and what they really talk about is the Lucha Bros and how they want more Lucha. And I hope that's the match we get.
Yeah, I hope that's
what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. The fact.
Yeah, and then if they can pull that off, it opens so many doors for other luchadors to come on the show, to be on Dark, to maybe be signed even to be All Elite. So it would be cool. And later in the episode, Pentagon and Phoenix. Go ahead, sorry.
No, that's fine. Keep going.
Later in the episode, Pentagon and Phoenix came out with Eddie Kingston. They joined commentary. Eddie joined commentary. Pentagon and Phoenix just stood behind him looking mean and lean and big and bad, you know, like they might kill somebody. And after Moxley got the win with this kind of backslide reversal, Archer went nuts. And he beat Moxley like a drum. So Eddie sent Rey Fénix and Penta out to even the numbers. Fénix clocked Archer with the chair. It was awesome. Jake Roberts got Archer, and Eddie told Penta not to attack him, even though Penta was really wanting to. And they picked Moxley up, gave him the title, gave him a lot of praise, got over how good he was and how he's the best. Then he hits him with the backhand, chokes him out, and announces that he never tapped, never quit, and he still wants that beautiful belt. And so we did get a big main event ending thing with Pentagon and Phoenix in the ring, but it really wasn't their spot. So, but hopefully it's a sign that things are progressing and we'll get to see more of them, and they're kind of moving into the main title picture, and it'll help. They've pretty much separated them from Butcher and Blade as like the dual tag team, or the, you know, the two Rudo tag teams that team up, and they've kind of, and I like the idea that they're both singles competitors, but also a tag team, and they could do a lot with that.
They can do that in and out,
seamlessly,
very seamless.
So what I was going to bring back around was that that's one of the things that was being talked about between the draft and the way that AEW is handling it, is that there doesn't seem to be as clear a road now as there was just a few years ago for Mexican indie wrestlers to come to break into the United States. Between the way that WWE is kind of taking people just to have them and not really using them, and AEW has them and doesn't necessarily use them consistently. That's just one of the things that we're talking about. So that there's still hope. If AEW turns this around and starts turning matches into bangers like we know they can do, then there will be more people wanting to do that. Did you we have one other note here. I didn't know if you were going to get around to
that was my last note. Was Ivelisse. She's announced that she is all elite. It's not Twitter official yet. I don't know if that's still the deal, like with Facebook relationships, but now it's not Twitter official, but she said that she had permission to announce that she was all elite. Yeah. So that's kind of exciting for her. I would imagine Diamante is too then at this point, since they've tagged them up. And I didn't see them putting their tag team championship trophy, I guess, and medals on people that weren't signed, and especially the placement. I mean, honestly, aside from like Hikaru Shida, Ivelisse got the most shine and light shined on her lately on Dynamite. She's there every week. She's in the crowd if she's not on the roster. She got the title match against Thunder Rosa, and I mean, like, they've really given her a lot of attention. So it's exciting to see what they could do with her and how they're going to push that.
And we talked about it just, a few weeks ago, how they had a great build in the women's division, but 3 out of the 4 women weren't signed with the company. So the fact that they're making the right strides to bring her on board,
or at least allowed to say it.
Yeah.
We're publicly signed, at least. Yeah.
Yes. But you're right. Once we get that, picture on Instagram and Twitter, Ivelisse is all elite. That's when it will really feel official. But she shared that during a Q&A. And so she said that she had the permission to share that. But I still feel, probably as fans, we've just gotten so used to that being the MO for all elite. That's when someone's signed, and that's when, it's official. So it, will still feel like it's still lingering or still unsure until that happens.
It's a sports-based product. You don't just casually sign somebody to play in the MLB or the NFL. You make a release if you're adding them to your roster, right? And that's what people are expecting from AEW at this point, because they've done it for wrestlers.
Yeah.
Most of the wrestlers.
Yeah. Almost all of them.
Well, I know.
But there is the possibility that they're waiting on Diamante. That's the one thing that maybe
that
they're waiting for. Get paperwork signed for both, then they'll make the big announcement. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, though, once it is official and it is posted on social media, you're going to be able to see that news on luchacentral.com. So, either way, we got you. We got you either way. Yes.
Yeah. All things Lucha Libre.
All things Lucha Libre. Of course, the results for Dynamite and Dark are available on luchacentral.com. Also, that happened on Wednesday is NXT. We had some real interesting developments happen this week, including a match announcement for Halloween Havoc, which I'll get into in a second, which is, very, very exciting. But on this week's episode of NXT, the second match of the night, we had, it was fairly short, Ashanti, the Adonis versus Jake Atlas. Adonis was very much, running his mouth, and Jake Atlas is very much more of the serious tone, giving him a drop kick for his trouble. And then as they were getting through their match, Legado de Fantasmas, Joaquin Wilde, and Raul Mendoza showed up on the stage to distract Adonis, somewhat of a payback for what happened during TakeOver 31, where he came to even the odds when they showed up during Santos Escobar's match versus Isaiah Swerve Scott. So Jake Atlas was able to take advantage of the distraction for the roll-up, and win his match. After the bell, Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza jumped Adonis, and Jake Atlas actually did try and help Adonis out, but then we had both Santos Escobar and Isaiah Swerve come out, and we were, we still feel like there's this tension, this, triple. Now it looks like maybe a triple team or a trio now fully up against Legado de Fantasma. So we may see Adonis, Jake Atlas, and Isaiah Swerve Scott all team up very soon to take on Legado de Fantasma.
I was expecting Teddy Long to come out and announce a 6-man after the.
You got a tag team match, player.
Yeah.
Because if it's not a 6-man tag team match, you got to go 1-on-1 with the Undertaker.
Yes. Oh man. Well, you know what though? You got William Regal instead, so that's also why. That just doesn't seem like Regal.
But it's still pretty
way
good.
more. Yeah, it's still pretty good. I have a feeling
no Teddy Long.
No, it's no Teddy Long. You're absolutely right. Later on in the episode, we did have Raquel Gonzalez in the backstage area. She talked about how much she just hated Rhea Ripley and challenged her to a match at Halloween Havoc. And Rhea wasn't very far behind when, it's like she heard her name coming out of Raquel's mouth and was ready to take her on, and she accepted. And then they had a brawl in the back because these two women do not like each other, but it is official. We are going to get Raquel Gonzalez versus Rhea Ripley at Halloween Havoc.
Oh my gosh. So good.
Yes. So very much, very excited for that. Speaking of Halloween Havoc, the host, Shotzi Blackheart, was in a match against Candice LeRae. I believe this was a match to determine the new number one contender for the women's championship match, or the women's championship. And interestingly enough, Candice LeRae had some help from Indy Hartwell. She ultimately helped Candice with a pair of brass knuckles, which she used against Shotzi to get another title opportunity. Again, Shotzi is super fearless. And I really like, the dynamic between these two women. I think Candice as well is fairly fearless, and she works so well in the ring. I think, and maybe it's because too,
so tough.
They're both really just tough. And so
they are. Yeah, that's a great description. Tough.
Yeah.
They are tough.
And they don't look like it, in some ways. I mean, I think with Candice, she's the poison pixie, but they're both kind of more on the petite side. But again, Shotzi is like reckless with her body. She didn't
Little
have that.
Girls will mess you up. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, the smaller women, I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like, they can really go. So
I'm leaving that alone.
Yeah, he's not going to touch that. He knows, but still a very
answer I can get back.
Great match, and now we will see Candice LeRae up against Io Shirai again at some point. But that also doesn't mean Shotzi's far behind. We've already seen her against Io once in a great match. It seems like her name's still going to hover around that title contender realm. So we will see. And of course, Shotzi's hosting Halloween Havoc. So I mean, hello. Everybody still wins. We all still win. And then the last match, we're going to talk also a little bit about her too, because there was a fun little thing at the end of NXT that she was involved in that definitely gives you the Halloween Havoc vibes. But we did, gets me so excited. Can it be Halloween Havoc yet? I don't care about Christmas.
I have wanted this since I was in high school. Like,
yes,
I there hasn't been a Halloween Havoc in 20 years. Like, this is the time is right and the moon is full, baby.
Yes,
the monster is coming out of the lagoon.
Yes, I'm gonna be kind of disappointed if we don't get the Yeti. I was thinking about this today. I want the Yeti just once. I don't know how we're gonna get him, but
it's just
maybe we
gambling.
El Gigante to put the suit on. Then we could report on it for Lucha too.
There's a lot of tall guys in NXT. I don't want to do this to Damian Priest because he is the North American champion, but he fits the build of the Yeti.
Do it. Just do it. Just do it. It's fine.
Just for Halloween Havoc. That's the thing. Like if they kind of did like a Southpaw style and like it was its own episode, it only followed its own continuity. That's all. I would be so in on that.
Yeah.
Like a werewolf just comes in and bites somebody and they get so freaked out they get pinned. Like I would be so into that. Like that's my kind of like horror Halloween wrestling. Like I want to see a mummy show up and kick somebody in the nuts. I mean, like, because they kick all stiff like that. It'd be perfect.
Yes. Well, again, I do believe Damian Priest could be the best fit. He has some of the best kicks. Have you seen him? Oh my gosh.
I would be so into Damian Priest as a mummy. Or
not
werewolf. Yeah.
Oh, no, you're making it better.
Yeah, we're making him better. I mean, again, Damian Priest had a great match against Dexter Lumis. They had a really good standoff at the beginning of the match, and both of them have a very serious tone, as they both, kind of the way that they approach their wrestling and approach their opponents. Again, Damian Priest with his legs, I mean, he had a few kicks. I know there was a big standing leg drop. Of course, he had a spinning kick that did miss, and really the overall, to me, I was still just fairly impressed with his size and how agile he is and his kicks. Like, I don't know what it is about Damian Priest's kicks. Maybe because I don't see that many kicks in pro wrestling. You figure more people work on grappling and upper body movement. And he's one of the few, to me, that utilizes kicks in a way that makes him, he's utilizing his body as a total weapon. So, but anyways, Damian Priest did beat Dexter Lumis to retain the North American Championship. We do see some, things happening with the North American Championship. Cameron Grimes is still involved. We'll see about that. We do see Johnny Gargano sneaking up and taking Damian Priest out at the end of the show. And then Candice LeRae joins Johnny on stage. And then, he isn't Teddy Long, but William Regal, the general manager of NXT, comes out. And then it's announced that both Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano are going to be getting rematches of their matches from TakeOver 31 at Halloween Havoc. But there is going to be a spin. There's going to be a twist. And who explains the twist? Well, it is none other than the host, Shotzi Blackheart. She rises through a fog to tell them that their matches are going to be decided by spinning the wheel, make the deal.
Oh my gosh, now we need a creepy little person to do it.
Yes. So, that's going to be a very interesting element of Halloween Havoc, where maybe we see a little bit more gimmicky matches, maybe some interesting spins, on things. They
had some Halloween themed matches on the wheel, like a buried alive match, a casket match. So,
I could be into that. I love casket matches. They are so underrated. And my son, when, he still kind of collects them, but when he played with wrestling toys, everything he wanted to do was a casket match. Kids love that stuff.
He has excellent taste. Congratulations. Yeah. You're just going to have really great taste. I would be pretty proud of that.
He needs to be the booker for Halloween Havoc.
Yes.
It would be amazing. He'd do a good job, better than I would.
So, of course, the results for NXT are available on luchacentral.com. We are going to be previewing the Halloween Havoc show. It is just about 2 weeks away. I can't believe it. So it will be coming up soon. So many things to anticipate. And, again, Shotzi Blackheart as host. We have now this spin the wheel deal, with all the gimmicks, that could be available. It's going to be probably an NXT like we've never seen it. So, good on you, NXT. So excited.
Yeah, it's time. Yeah, we need this.
We could talk about Halloween Havoc all night, but we do have other Lucha Libre news to cover. Up next, we have CMLL. Brendan, you're going to give us more info on what's happening with CMLL.
I can't follow that. That's crazy.
I know no one can follow Halloween Havoc. Literally, I mean, but we just have to try.
Right.
We have to try.
All right, so this is the spot where I talk about way less exciting than Halloween Havoc, and then we can build our way back up. Women's tournament went on, and it was actually kind of good, but it's a CML event that it's very obvious to me, much in the same way that WWE doesn't always care. CMLL just sort of threw this together, and they're doing it because they need to do something, or that they think is going to be something. I don't know if they realize how predictable this is coming off to the fan product. But so the other half of the women's bracket, when you had I never said her name right. Yarochita, Mystique, Stephanie Vacker, Sanelli, and La Guerrera. They did the same thing we did the week before, where we had a battle royal. So you had Vacker and Mystique got thrown out together by La Guerrera. And then at the end of it, Jarochita submitted Sanelli as the last two people in the ring, so that the rest of the tag team field here. Dallas got involved. I'm not entirely sure how the rules of this tournament work, because she wasn't in the elimination, but there she was. Dallas and Stephanie Vacker against Estrelita and Mystique. And Dallas and Stephanie got the win there. And then you had Princesa, Sugihita, and Sanelli against La Guerrera and La Vacarita. And Princesa, Sugihita, and Sanelli got one there. And then Princesa, Sugihita, and Sanelli against Dallas and Stephanie Vacker. Dallas and Vacker were disqualified for continue to attack Princesa Sugihita at 5 count. So, thoroughly being the bad girls that we all know they can be. They even punched the referee. So,
Oh.
I love it. Las Arrugas.
Yeah, well, maybe the ref shouldn't have been such a punk. Like that to me.
How dare he do his job?
Outrageous.
Yeah, no, I that to me was the most interesting finish of the night because of that. Like, you rarely see a ref disqualify a person via 5 count, and then that seems like the natural reaction. What do you mean you disqualified me? Of course, at that point, the referee's going to get punched. Like,
yeah,
but nobody else has been disqualified. How come you picked me of all the days to do this? And then in your last match of the tournament, you had Arachita and Uvia moving on. So they're going to be wrestling in next week's CMLL tournament for the Mexican women's tag match. So I believe if I read the format right, this should be the final match, and it'll be those two against the winners of last week's event for the title. And then the main event, which I alluded to earlier in the show, was Caristico and El Bandito against Gran Guerrero and Negro Casas. Yeah, it was a good match.
Yeah, I noticed your Negro Casas shirt. Like,
yeah. Yes, of course the listeners can't see that, but we can. And so just for Brendan is wearing a Negro Casas shirt. Sorry, I got to put that context out there. Got to get them looped in.
Well, and a cool one too. Yeah.
Yes, you guys should be here to watch this, but you're not. So
y'all are missing out.
For since we brought it, I got this out of a Mask Republic blind box. So
Oh,
Mass
cool.
Republic offers to sell you something with sight unseen. The odds are pretty cool. Good, you're going to get something really cool.
Oh, I used to love their Lucha Loot crates. Like, I was so into that. I stayed with them from the first one all the way to the bitter end, and like,
me too.
I love those. Yeah.
So to wrap that up, before we get distracted about my wardrobe some more, Carristo and Bandito took 2 straight falls, 2 and 3 to this. Bandito seemed very emotionally drained at the end of it, like he was happy and sad, and maybe this is relating to the fact that he was a little more tired and run down, but he's noticeably emotional, and that added a lot. I thought it was a very cool main event finish. Unfortunately, because of no video on demand, I have no idea when people are going to be able to see that match. But that was there were more matches. They did have more matches before the women's tournament, but I in the interest of keeping up with the news stories, I figured I'd just cover the tournament and the main event here, and that's what we had for this week's CMLL pay-per-view.
Okay. All right. Now, Dusty, though, you have some updates for us on what's happening in New Japan.
Yeah, in big G1 news for our program, Jeff Cobb won his match against Will Ospreay. Everyone at Lucha Central Weekly would like to send our congratulations to Jeff on such a big win against a big name. This is a sign things are ascending for him in New Japan, kind of if you watch the product, like the G1 wins show, what they kind of think of you. His win-loss record is even now, but he's quickly climbing towards the end of the G1. So it'll be exciting to see what happens. We'll just have to stay tuned, and we will keep you updated on the latest regarding Lucha News and New Japan Pro Wrestling, including Jeff Cobb and much more.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yes, it is. We will. I mean, of course, you got to stay tuned to what's happening at Lucha Central Weekly Podcast. And Brendan, I mean, why don't you tell our listeners more about luchacentral.com?
Absolutely. If you're listening to this and you haven't visited luchacentral.com, it's time to do it. LuchaCentral.com is the online home for Lucha Libre, where you can get all of the top news in English and in Spanish. Find the best curated video content and original content not seen anywhere else. Find when Lucha Libre events would be happening in your area. Find photo galleries from top photographers covering Lucha Libre around the world. A place to have your voices heard, from weekly polls to annual awards. Seen and read by top executives in all of the major Lucha Libre promotions across the globe. And on top of all of that, it's free. LuchaCentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre.
And up next, one of our signature segments, it is This Week in Lucha Libre History.
That's right. Now it's time for This Week in Lucha Libre History. Be sure to check in every day at luchacentral.com for This Day in Lucha Libre by Pep Carrera. He puts out information, birth dates, anniversaries, match of the day videos, even more stuff than that. I mean, it's all about Lucha Libre at luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre. This week, I chose October 17th, 2003. Rey Mysterio Sr. was the first luchador to win the X-Law Heavyweight Championship after beating Dr. Wagner Jr. at the Auditorio Fausto Gutierrez Moreno in Tijuana, Baja California. This title is kind of cool. It was only ever held by 3 people: L.A. Park, Psychosis, like Nicho El Millonado Psychosis, and Rey Mysterio Sr. And it was the first hardcore wrestling company in Mexico. It was based in Tijuana, and it was called Extreme Latin American Wrestling. It lasted a couple years and folded, then came back in 2009, where L.A. Park was champion. He was champion when it folded in 2005. He's champion when it started up again in 2009. He defended in 2 matches, one against Sandman and one against Sabu. And I guess they were really good hardcore matches, but I couldn't find footage of them. So if anybody listening has the hookup on footage, message me, send me a message. I would definitely love to see that. And Rey Mysterio Sr. is probably a name you guys recognize, but this is actually the uncle of the Rey Mysterio we all know and adore that's currently in WWE. He has a couple of sons. Rey Horus was actually Io del Rey Mysterio for a while, who was another nephew, but he has an actual son who's Io del Rey Mysterio now, but also goes by Rey Mysterio Jr. And very confusing name on cards because they look very similar, and if it wasn't for the tattoos, it would be hard to tell them apart. But he's best known as a trainer. He trained legends, Rey Mysterio Sr., like Conan, Psychosis, Hayabusa, Cassandro. He trained all these guys, and of course Rey Mysterio from WWE that we know, and he is a legend. Yeah. And, I mean, he is maybe the most influential Lucha Libre trainer of all time. So I highly encourage everybody to check out his work and just do some research into Rey Mysterio Sr. so you can see how valid and important his input on Lucha Libre is. Who did you pick this week, Brendan?
Well, I chose, this week was October 14th, 1984. This is in no way a hardcore match. El Satanico won the UWA World Middleweight Championship after beating Legend of Lucha Libre star Super Astro at Arena Mexico. So this was very much a CMLL match.
Yeah, that must have been an amazing match.
I could not find footage of it, but I mean, Satanico he's a very well-known and respected technician, and Super Astro is a giant force at that period. This is in the 80s, so this is when you had like Kinect as the heavyweight champion, defending against a giant. So like the atmosphere for this match would have been amazing. And then you have these two guys who were at the high popularity right there in this match. I saw this and went on a rampage trying to find it or find.
I did too after we talked about it. Like, I couldn't find anything because like old school 80s CMLL, EMLL, you know, like that's my jam. Yeah. But I couldn't find it because I really wanted to see this match. I love Super Astro. Love El Satanico. Like, you know, it was a barn burner. Like, it would have been so fun to watch and, you know, its time, I guess, you know, but still, like, it must have been amazing.
Well, for nerds like us, the of its time is less, but yeah, it's, that's why I chose it. This sounded like an amazing match. Unfortunately, I fell a little short of being able to find footage. There is plenty of footage of both of these guys. As I mentioned, Astro is a Legends of Lucha Libre star, so there's lots of footage of him on Lucha Central. There will be action figures as they announced and all of that fun stuff, so you can find all kinds of things on them, and then you have to imagine the two of them wrestling together. That's the best we can do right now. Unless someone out there has, in which
if you've got the hookup, let us know. We'll give you a shout out. And you'll get your name on the podcast.
Yeah, we'll be your best friend forever.
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely will not show up at your house watch all of the Lucha Libre videos. Miranda, what did you get?
I would say this was kind of an easy pick, but it was actually more because of, you know, the Saturday that we spent this past Saturday with Expo Lucha. It really, when I saw this match, it really made me think of Expo Lucha and kind of some of the people we saw, plus what's to come ahead for Expo Lucha. So I picked October 18th, 1999, where Conan and Rey Mysterio Jr., who at the time were going by the tag team or the group, the Filthy Animals, won the WCW World Tag Team Championships after beating Harlem Heat, Booker T, and Stevie Ray on an episode of Monday Night Nitro at the First Union Spectrum in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So this has so many layers to it. Now, the match itself is typical 1999 WCW. Shenanigans all up the way. Didn't quite make sense. It was very short too. Like, I think the whole
super short,
video, the whole video was 9 minutes and 3 of those were entrances. So
that's very
super short. But you know what? I love Rey Mysterio in this match, especially in the moments he had up against Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray, I think, was almost a little heelish in his approach to Rey Mysterio because of the size disadvantage and knowing that. But Rey Mysterio had some really kind of unique ways to combat the height of both brothers in Harlem Heat. And the pin itself was kind of interesting because it was kind of a double pin. Both Conan and Rey Mysterio pinned, I believe it was Stevie Ray, to win the titles. And Ray had kind of the top half of Stevie's body and Conan had the bottom. And that, of course, came with the destruction of the Filthy Animals, which is, again, part of that at that time, 99 WCW, which was all more about story, but at the same time, we got to see Eddie Guerrero do cut a promo and you know, really talk about the Filthy Animals and that whole thing.
I was really into Filthy Animals at the time. Like, I was sad they unmasked Ray, but I was all in. I wanted a set of those devil horns so bad.
It's one of those iterations of Ray without his mask that isn't that bad, you know. It really isn't, because I still cool. It's an evolution of his character, of his personality and style, and it makes sense in the long run. I mean, ultimately, going back to the mask was the better solution for him. But at the same time, you know, having that time with the mask off, you got to explore more and about Rey Mysterio. And I think he got to try different things with his wrestling persona that I don't think he would have been able to if he still had the mask on. Now, in this match, though, he was injured and he was sidelined as a result. So he didn't get to defend this title with Conan. Instead, Billy Kidman substituted for Rey Mysterio shortly afterwards. And they ended up defending the title against Harlem Heat and the First Family, which was also another distraction point. For a match that's only 6 minutes, they really cut in and out of this match very often, which is very, very distracting. And where's Mike Tenay? Come on now, you know, like just having, there's so many things about, like, I could understand why the cruiserweights in the late 90s had nothing to do, you know, WCW seemed like a very frustrating time because you didn't let people get to focus on their match or you didn't let the fans get to focus on the match because they were always talking and shooting away. And commentary just didn't really respect it. You know, you need Mike Tenay to like set people straight on the importance of lucha libre. So
we do, I miss Mike Tenay. I wish he'd show up in AEW.
Right.
Conan did make reference in that Mass Mats and Mayhem interview. I'm going to tie that back in. He did mention that's exactly what was going on, and this is a match that exemplifies exactly what he was talking about, where they talk about anything but the match that's going on in the middle of the ring. Yeah, and then
So that definitely gave me vibes of the old school WCW and kind of what the beginning of the end, shall we say, of that, because this was also right before they had that New Blood Millionaires Club storyline, and that's when things really went down the drain. So, anyways, but overall, it still was a great. I mean, this was the second time I believe that Rey Mysterio was a WCW Tag Champion. He would have 3 runs total against, you know, Harlem Heat, which is one of the best tag teams in all of WCW. So again, a short display, a small display, but it's still a fun one for us fans who grew up in the late 90s. And again, the ties to Expo Lucha, of course, Conan with the Mass Mats and Mayhem podcast, and Expo Lucha 2021 is going to be in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So, I mean, yes. So come on now. I mean, there's just too many things in life that I feel like are drawing me to Philly.
We're gonna make it. It's gonna happen. We'll be there and having a grand old time. Ooh.
Yes. Well, as Desi mentioned, this day in Lucha Libre history is featured on luchacentral.com. You can review videos of match of the day, and also there are certain matches that do have links to YouTube that you can watch. Or if there's some, like Brendan talked about, that don't, feel free to send those our way. Let us know if you find some of these matches that we're looking for. You can share that with us on social media. But next, we do have a commercial from one of our partners, thechairshot.com. All right. A big thank you to our partners at thechairshot.com. And as we are wrapping up today's show, we definitely have a mixed bag of news to share with you. Literally a big mixed bag of news to share. So up first, Brendan, you have some updates on the Ring of Honor Pure Championship Tournament.
Oh my goodness, yes. So we are starting off the semifinal round. So you're getting more focused matches, and you're getting more big names with less predictability on who's going to win. Although when I tell you it was Jay Lethal and David Finlay in one match, and Jonathan Gresham and Matt Sydal in the other match, most people who follow Ring of Honor probably have a good who won. But that didn't really impact my enjoyment of these matches. You did have Lethal coming in. This was a little more of a slow and deliberate pace, which kind of contrasted the Gresham and Sydal match that came after it. I really enjoyed like I said, seeing Jay Lethal work in this more deliberate with Finlay. So you have fourth generation grapplers. They were billing him, and a lot of holds were being exchanged. Lethal did come out on top, and then you have Gresham and Sydal, and this started out faster. They were exchanging. The pace on this was crazy. They were going back and forth, and even the finish had a crazy pace to it, where Gresham put Sydal up into a surfboard, and just as you were reaching that point where like he's got a tap or something happen, Gresham transitioned it into an ankle lock, and that's when Sydal actually tapped. So it was a very exciting match. The Pure tournament has been a nice a breath of fresh air for seeing really good grappling wrestling, and it juxtaposes to what was alluded to. It juxtaposes quite with the other styles that are out there, some of which we're about to go talking about. So Miranda, I think you have some news for us now.
Yes. So I have some Impact news. We don't get to talk too much about Impact Wrestling, but we are on the road to Bound for Glory. That's going to be coming up on Saturday, October 24th. So as we head into that, we will be sharing a little bit more news with you to prepare fans for what's to come for Bound for Glory. This week, though, was just a fun match. It was the beginning match of this week's Impact on Access TV. It was a 3-way knockouts tag match. We had Taya and Rosemary versus Tasha Steelz and Kiera Hogan versus Nevaeh and Havoc. And these three teams have been battling, each other in roundabout ways now for a few solid months now. And finally, we've had some pairing of these teams in the ring over the past few weeks, but this was the first time all three of them came together. And really one of the highlights of this match for me was Taya doing a top rope springboard into off the top rope into all of the competitors on the outside of the ring. So such cool. a kind of a classic Taya Lucha Libre move that we don't necessarily get to see that much on Impact. We do see, her Lucha Libre influence is very noticeable in her ring work, but I haven't seen it as much lately in her matches. So this is kind of just like a big one of those big winks to Lucha Libre, and she just did that perfectly. So a very fun match. Taya and Rosemary did win. It's actually Rosemary who got the win for the team. So we do have some closure as of yet now for some of these tag teams in the Knockouts division. So we're not really quite sure what that means for Taya as far as where that leaves her at this moment. But also in news, Impact is devoting a whole week to the road to Bound for Glory. Again, it is coming up on October 24th, and they're going to be having some special programming over the next week. Starting on next Tuesday, October 20th, is Impact on Access TV. It's going to be the final one before Bound for Glory. Also, right after Impact on Access TV, we're having Talkin' Shop, which is Carl Anderson, Machine Gun, and Doc Gallows. This is kind of a spin-off of their Talkin' Shop podcast. They are having a special broadcast edition of their podcast. It's Talkin' Shop Full Keg. And they're going to be joined by people on the Impact roster, some of their friends, and a few special surprise guests. And if anyone's watched Talkin' Shop-A-Mania, that was hilarious. There was a whole thing with Chop. It was stupid, but it was so hilarious.
So funny.
It was so dumb.
Those guys are hilarious. They're getting their own program on Access TV, like a Saturday Night Live style sketch comedy, and I cannot wait. You just know it's going to be amazing.
Yes. So, very excited to see what that looks like. Also, they're going to be presenting This Is Bound for Glory on Thursday, October 22nd. This is going to showcase some of the champions and challengers for this pay-per-view, including Rich Swann, Eric Young, Kylie Ray, and Deonna Purrazzo. And then a live countdown to Glory on Saturday, October 24th. That's just a countdown really highlighting all of the matches for Bound for Glory and a repeat of This Is Bound for Glory. So lots of content coming out from Impact Wrestling. And again, last week we talked about the 6-way scramble scheduled for the X Division Championship. That is going to be Rohit Raju defending his championship against Willie Mack, TJP, Chris Bay, did I say Willie Mack already? I'm trying to remember. Willie Mack, TJP, Trey Miguel, Chris Bay, and Jordan Grace. So it's going to be, that was one of the matches I'm really looking forward to the most for Bound for Glory. So, stay tuned. Again, all of this is going to be happening on Access TV. You can also follow Impact on social media, of course, and even Impact Plus will have some special content. And I mentioned we were going to have, a big array of news, and this is definitely, we really went from Ring of Honor to Impact Wrestling, and now we're going to be finishing off with Effie's Big Gay Brunch. Specifically the headliner, because we mentioned this a few weeks ago, the headliner for this, for Lucha Libre fans of even Lucha Underground, this is going to be a show stealer. We had Cassandro versus Sonny Kiss.
Yes.
I've only read about the results and read about the match. So, cause this was available, I believe, through Fight TV and some streaming specialized services. So I didn't get to watch it, but I read about it and I read about kind of the match. So I wanted to get your sense if either of you had watched it before we get a little bit into this match.
I haven't had the chance to watch it yet, but I've been dying to see the whole pay-per-view. After some of the memes, I just cracked up. So, yeah, I'll defer to Brendan. I'm excited you get to see this.
I got to legit watch it, and I found a stream, someone who was streaming it. I don't want to say that on the air because I don't want this person's YouTube channel or whatever we're broadcasting on taken down. But it was good. It was a fantastic match. The atmosphere on it very much was story the users were doing, plus the way the match was going was the new Kisses, the veteran. Every time that Cassandro got the edge on it, it was from being smart and crafty, and every time that Sonny Kiss got the edge in this match, it was from being strong and athletic and having boundless energy. So it was a very interesting back and forth match that way. The crowd was very even in basically the crowd was was the equivalent of a both these guys chant. They were do anything, either one of them. If they did a move, they all got excited. It wasn't not my I'm not paying attention. It was all of it, and eventually Cassandro did a roll up off of the top rope that caught Sonny and got the 1, 2, 3, and the crowd went nuts, and social distancing went out the window. By the way, like everybody flooded towards the ring. So, yeah, it was really like I watched it. I made the mistake of watching the rebroadcast at work, and then I had to take a 10-minute pee and happy at the same time, and people are going to think I'm weird and high if I walk out here like this. So
sounds like an amazing match.
Yeah, I had read as far as the match, there was a lot of in and out of the ring, especially kind of in the first part where they would both do a move to get out of the ring and then they would come back. So there was that too, I think, was a bit. I mean, I think it was very much in the style of Lucha Libre, but they always it seemed like, from what I understand, they got back in the ring pretty quickly too, that they didn't linger outside of the ring and it kind of evolved into a hardcore match. I think they really were more, like being diplomatic about how they were utilizing kind of that agility and movement out of the ring. So I think too, that to me was impressive after seeing, so many matches, especially Lucha Libre matches, just get out of hand. From what I've read, it just seemed like it was still very controlled, but they also tried to do it to like hurt their opponent.
Yeah, no, they were very much trying to get an edge at any given point, and even to your point of it like being brief, there was a segment in there where they were both trying to get in just ahead of the 10 count, so they were pulling each other out to get, the 20 count. It was a lucha match, so they were pulling each other out so the other one could get in. But so even still, that was more about getting an edge than like than it evolving into core match. And that segment didn't last super long either. It was a very well balanced match, and the energy in the room was phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely we'll have to watch it. And again, too, this is very much a old guard versus new guard, and I say that in the most respectful way, because it really is,
it is, though.
The world's most famous exotico versus America's exotico, and like that match in and of itself, like, is huge. It's a big deal for Lucha Libre, but also, this particular event is really geared towards the LGBTQ community. And so to have that as your main event, as again, having a person like Cassandro who has, done so much in his career in Mexico, but how that's translated into the US with Sonny Kiss having the format and the platform he does on AEW and what we've seen in Lucha Underground and everything. I mean, it's this is very, very exciting, and it sounds like it was just a fantastic match.
It was a lot of fun, and I mean, I it's definitely an easy rewatch for me. I probably at any given moment, if I had it on DVD, could just be like, oh yeah, sure, I could watch that again.
Very cool. Well, everyone, that is the end of this week's edition of the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. Don't forget to visit luchacentral.com, your centralized place for all things Lucha Libre, and also follow us on social media. You can follow us at Lucha Central on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter at luchacentral.com. Also, don't forget to check out the Facebook page. There's lots of amazing content on there, including interviews, matches, lots of fun things and segments. I mean, it is an encyclopedia of Lucha Libre on the Lucha Central YouTube page. So make sure you check it all out. And well, while you're at it, follow us on social media. Dusty, why don't you let our listeners know where they can find you?
I am on Instagram at Dusty Murphy, all one word, and I'm at facebook.com/Dusty Murphy.
And Brendan, where can our listeners find you?
I am 321 T-shirt guy. I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram, sort of, and I'm on Twitter. I am always going to about the Instagram thing here. I'm just terrible about checking that thing. I logged on the other day. Very proud of myself. I put it on the calendar and everything.
Oh man, yes, that's true. You are the resident Twitter person though. And me and Dusty got kind of Facebook and Instagram covered. And speaking of me, me, Miranda Morales, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at the #Miranda, hashtag spelled out. And through that, you can let us know what you think of the show. Leave us your thoughts and comments. We'd love to hear from you. And while you're at it, you may be listening to this on Spotify or Google, iTunes, Podbase, Speaker. Well, while you're at it, go ahead and subscribe, rate, and review. Subscribe so that you get an alert every time this drops every Friday, the Lucha Central Weekly podcast. You get it as soon as it drops. You can review us, leave us a 5-star rating, and give us your thoughts, your comments, things that you would like for us to cover on the show, things you like, and maybe things that you don't like. Hey, we got tough skin. We can take it. We only learn by growing.
Real quick, want to pop in. We're on the Lucha Central YouTube channel. Our review of Lucha Central was the video version of this show. So if that's your thing, go check us out over on YouTube as well. We will hopefully be adding more video content.
Yes, very good point. Yeah, our review of Expo Lucha virtual from this past weekend is up on the Lucha Central YouTube page. You can watch us as we review it. Of course, you can actually also listen to this on the YouTube page as well. But as Brendan said, we are definitely exploring the world of video content out there. So watch out. You may see our faces a lot more frequently in the future.
And if you do, I'm sorry.
No, that is not true.
No, we're just giving the people what they want.
Yes, I mean, look, we just
they
can't
demand
help
a little beauty with their lucha news, and who are we to deny them that?
Exactly. Wow. Dusty knows what's up. He's the dashing one. He's living the gimmick. He's the dashing one. Like, hello. He's living the gimmick.
He's totally living the gimmick.
And that's and that's all right. Well, for the dashing Dusty Murphy and for Brendan Barr, I'm Miranda Morales. Thank you so much for listening to this week's edition. We will be back next week, so make sure you stay tuned.